I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're pleased to welcome you all to Fairfield County and look forward to a spirited Republican Superintendent candidate forums. We are interested in transparent government, and we're excited to help facilitate that here tonight. I want to start with our invocation. Mr. Bob Karras, our Executive Committeeman.
Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to meet here in Winsboro, to get the opinions and the views of our candidates. We're so thankful that they have had a safe trip here. We pray that they will have a safe trip home. We pray we'll have a good, enlightening conversation here tonight. And as always, we ask a special blessing for our troops at home and abroad. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Richard Johnson, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Our flag is right here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Richard. For the Republican creed, I would like to first recognize and then ask Sixth Circuit Solicitor candidate Tom Holland to read the Republican creed.
I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon. If I can seek opportunity, not security, I want to take the calculated risk to dream and build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for gold. I prefer the challenges of life to guarantee security, the thrill of fulfillment to the state of calm utopia. I will not trade freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master save my God. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud, and unafraid, to think and act for myself, to enjoy the benefit of my creations, to face the whole world boldly and say, I am a free man.
Thank you very much. Guys, the Sixth Circuit does cover Fairfield, Chester, and Lancaster. Mr. Holland's running as a Republican. He's one of two candidates that are running, so please make some time later on to talk with him as well. And he will be at our meeting on April 21st as well. So thank you. Let's see, looking around, we've got 5th District Chairman Drew Johnson is here from Chester. Thank you for coming, Drew. And I think that's all. You don't have any elected officials, do you? When you're Republican in Fairfield County, there's not that many here these days. Although they were all invited, this is open to the public. All right, let's go to the rules for tonight's forum. There will be 2 minutes for opening statements. There will be 1 minute for time limit for answers. Bob Karras, our Executive Committeeman. Bob, raise your hand. He will hold up a yellow card when you have 15 seconds left, and a red card when your time has expired. Please respect that.
I've got the air horn, and I've got the L, I got all kinds of stuff.
He'll take care of it. He ran for Senate in our area, so he's a battle-tested guy. I'll follow up on any questions if needed. At my discretion, I can give added time, and I'll also give candidates time to respond if they're mentioned in another candidate's answer. So first, I'd like to give some introductions. First, Anderson County School Board member Gary Burgess. Please note that everybody's sitting in alphabetical order as well. Also, former State Deputy Superintendent Mika Childs. Former teacher and attorney Amy Cofield. GOP activist Sherry Few. University of South Carolina professor Don Jordan. Charleston County School Board member Elizabeth Moffett. And Director of the State Association of School Administrators, Ms. Molly Smith. All right, and we're going to start in alphabetical order with opening statements. And I'd like to go ahead and get you to start, Mr. Burgess.
I'm Gary Burgess, running for State Superintendent of Education from Anderson, South Carolina, the upstate. I have my wife here with me tonight. Also, I know I'm using up my time, but I'm extremely excited to see y'all paying here as well as ran the last cycle. Why am I running for State Superintendent of Education? I love South Carolina. I believe that we can be the #1 teaching and learning environment in the world, not only in this nation, but in the world. I have what I would call a very unique biography in order to fill this particular position as your next state superintendent of education. I'm from Inman, South Carolina. Grew up in a working class, poor family. Did not realize I was poor until I was accepted to Wofford College. And then I realized that I was poor. But no one told me as a poor black kid from Inman that I could not learn. And as a result of not being told that, and teachers not treating me like that, I did excel and I did succeed. I left Wofford College and went to Converse College to pick up a master's and an ed specialist degree. And then I really lost my mind. I went to the big city, Columbia, with a lot of asphalt and concrete, and picked up a doctorate degree in Columbia. I've been a teacher in the classroom at Dorman High School, suburban school. I was recruited from Dorman High School, and after 8 years there, I went to Burns High School, a rural school. I left those two schools, which had a very different student population as far as social economic status. Went to Whitlock Junior High School, an inner city school, and learned a lot. I do not believe that we have a teacher problem. I do not believe that we have a student problem or parent problem. We have a systems problem, and we need to correct the system to make sure that kids are getting the education they need, and that parents should have a choice as to where their kids attend school. Thank you very much. Gary Burgess, State Superintendent of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Childs.
Hi, I'm Nika Childs, candidate for State Superintendent of Education. I'm a teacher, a mentor, a coach, a mother, and a devoted military wife. I'm running for State Superintendent of Education. I'm a native of South Carolina, a product of public schools here in our state. I graduated Airport High School over in Lexington County School District 2. I went away to school to Duke University largely on scholarship. There I received my bachelor's in history, I received my teaching license, and I also received my master's in public policy. I came back home to South Carolina, back home to the state that's given me so much, because I wanted to offer a public service to our state. I started my public service in the classroom. A public school teacher, middle school, 6th grade. I taught at Dent Middle School over in Richland County School District 2. I went from the schoolhouse to the state house when I joined Governor Sanford's staff as his education policy advisor. I moved over to the private sector where I worked with business and industry leadership. While in the private sector, I had an opportunity to continue my public service as a member of the Education Oversight Committee. And as a member of the Education Oversight Committee, I was able to stand firm with parents, teachers, and students by voting against the Common Core state standards. I left the public sector and moved back in, left the private sector and moved back over to the public sector when I joined General Zates as his Deputy State Superintendent of Education. In my time in service and education in our state, I've seen that too many of our high school graduates are not prepared when they leave our schools, and this is wrong. I want to make sure that each child who graduates from a public school in South Carolina is ready for work or college and ready for citizenship. I pledge 5 things to you. 1, I will fight to bring accountability to every classroom. 2, I will fight to individualize learning. I will protect the powers enumerated to our state. I will fight to attract the very best teachers to our classrooms. And lastly, I will work to improve opportunity by increasing community involvement. Thank you.
The clock will start to open your mouth.
Okay. Hey, everybody. I am Amy Cofield, and I am a candidate for State Superintendent of Education. I'm among about 250 others. Fortunately, tonight you get to see 7 of us here. And what I want to point out to you is why I am the most qualified to serve as your state superintendent. We have a lot of similarities among us. We have some very great people up here asking to serve. We are, at least for today, all Republicans. We have several of us taught school. Several of us are against some of us are politicians, have been married to politicians, or work with politicians on a daily basis. I'm not one of those. I'm going to tell you why I am different and why you should vote for me in June. I grew up in South Carolina going to public schools. I graduated from USC with a BA degree in early childhood education, a master's degree in early childhood education, and a Juris Doctorate degree. I taught school in the public schools of South Carolina. My 2 children now attend schools in the public schools of South Carolina. I personally see and live with that every day. I am the only candidate that you will see that has 23 years of running a successful business. I am the only candidate that you will see that has been practicing law in this state. I want to express to you the importance of having a legal background to be able to understand the laws that we are faced with in interpreting and arguing and making arguments for Washington bureaucrats to stay out of South Carolina. I ask that in June that you vote for Amy Cofield. Thank you.
We don't want any hot mics.
Can everybody hear me? Do I need the microphone? Because I think the feedback perhaps is worse. Is that okay if I just speak? Okay, now you can start the clock. Good evening. I am Sherry Few, and I'm seeking the Republican nomination for State Superintendent of Education. I am the parent of 4 boys who all attended public schools and graduated from the local schools in Lugoff, where I live, which isn't far from here. I am qualified for Superintendent of Education because I have spent most of my adult life fighting for conservative principles. And I have the track record to prove that I can be effective in leading the fight, just as I have led the fight against Common Core for the last 12 months. And that is the reason that I'm running. And I am the only candidate who has said that should I become elected Superintendent of Education, I will make it my first priority to call for a review of the Common Core standards and review those standards with like-minded people and rip them out by the roots from South Carolina's education system. There are a lot of other ideas that candidates will share with you. Discipline, reading programs, bus transportation, all sorts of things. But none of that matters if we don't get rid of Common Core. How in the world can we do a reading program when we're taking away stories from young children and replacing them with propaganda-laced informational text? We've got to get rid of Common Core, and that's the reason that I'm running. That is my #1 priority, and I've even been criticized for being a single-issue candidate. But I'm here to tell you, we don't have any leadership in South Carolina to fight Common Core, and that's why I'm running. The leaders in this state have the John Boehner attitude. They say, we don't like it, but there's nothing we can do about it. Well, I'm here to say that as a leader of the state's education system, it will be my priority, and I will not rest until Common Core is repealed. Thank you. Vote for Sherry Few.
Hi, I'm Don Jordan, and I taught can y'all hear me? I taught a class that was a lot longer than this one this morning, 120, 130 calculus students, so I didn't use it there. I don't think I'm going to give it here either. I'm running because I worked my way through college, and I was able to be debt-free. I worked with Sloan Construction Company in Mayo's in Winsboro, in Columbia, South Carolina, for 5 summers. I really loved the job, but I also really loved going back to school when something was over. I was able to save enough for 3 weeks for my tuition, which was about $300 a semester. If I graduated today, I could not go to college. No middle-class family on down can afford $7,000 to $8,000 every semester. That's just your tuition. That doesn't include the books and the place to stay. Something has to change. And so, in order to get to this position, I had to go through from Dr. Pastide, who's the president of the university, who granted me stay on working. I couldn't do money, so I did it like everybody else. And, pursue this avenue. That's not the only thing I'm concerned about. That's one of the major ones. The other one is teachers are not honored. We don't grade professors A, B, and C. I don't want to be a B professor. I don't want to grade teachers A, B, C, and D. You don't do professionals that way. There is a mechanism to evaluate, but it doesn't have to be graded. And the other is, if you read my, if you get my website, you can it tells you how many student programs I've run in South Carolina. I'm running one right now at this speed. And that's the thing I want to do for students. I want to reach out to students. I want to go to the poor districts. I ran Project Access for Clemson, South Carolina State. And we did outreach programs for underprivileged kids all over the state. I think it works. There's more to say. I'll tell you in the next 2 minutes. Do I have a minute for questions, or is this not the time? Next time? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we would ask y'all to use the mics too, to do our video this.
Yeah.
Thank y'all very much.
I'm glad I got the opportunity to get on the video. Can you hear me? Is this thing working? I opened my mouth.
I know you're on stuff. So we'll give you a fresh start.
Thank you very much. I don't think this was on as well.
You turn it.
Now? Yes. All right.
Thank you so much.
Your mark, set, go. I'm Elizabeth Moffley, and I am married and live on a farm with my husband and 4 children in Allendale, South Carolina. And I will let you know that we have been entrepreneurs and small business owners for 30 years. We have Moffley Construction and Real Estate, Deer Creek Farm, and a dock on Shem Creek, commercial fishing dock on Shem Creek, where we house fishermen. But I'm running, this is my 3rd run. I'm very passionate about this. I don't take no very well. I have perseverance. I was very pleased in 2010 that I was able to get into the runoff out of 6 candidates and win 26 out of 46 counties based on my message. And so since I don't have much time, I'll be really brief. I presently serve on Charleston County School Board, which is the 2nd largest school district in the state of South Carolina, and I know the problems that we face at the local level, that we face in our counties and what's going on. And this is a top-down approach, unfortunately, and I'm trying very hard to get up there to make some, to solve some problems. And the things that I see are, for one, the high school graduation. I think this state is ranked 48th, and that's very important for economic development, that we correct that. And we have a fault in our system because we only have a one-size-fits-all high school diploma that everyone is going to go to 4-year college, and 48% dropout obviously says not. We're not all going to college. So we need to open up diploma options. As Republicans, we say we're for choice. Why would we not give our students choices? So I believe that we need to have a vocational technical diploma for students to be able to go on to a 2-year college for an industry standard certification. And also believe that we need to identify our special needs students and give them an IEP. By law, the State Board of Education was supposed to devise a diploma in this regard, and they have not. So that is number 1 on my position. 2, the 3 things that we're concerned about in the state and the local level is student achievement, teacher quality, or instructional quality, and graduation rate. Okay, check. We need some diplomas here for these students, so you have options. 2, we need to revise our standards of learning from an inch deep and a mile wide, so we have quantity and not quality. Really, that was that fast. Elizabeth Moffley, June 10th, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you putting this together tonight. I'm going to share with you for 2 minutes why I think my qualifications, and we'll talk about the issues a little bit later. I grew up in Saluda County, live there now on the dairy farm, learned hard work. Been married for 38 years, have 3 beautiful children, 1 is deceased, and they all participated and graduated from public schools as I did. I have a music degree from Lander College, a Master's of Education Supervision from George Washington University, and a special degree from the University of South Carolina. I taught school for 18 years as a music teacher across the state, taught at Chapin Elementary, where I was chosen as Teacher of the Year, had everything at my fingertips you could ever imagine, but went back home to Saluda to teach in a rural area where we really didn't have the resources. But there's still, I learned for a fact It's not about the buildings, it's not about the resources, it's about the teachers in the classroom. That's the most important part of education in our state. And it's also about principals. Are they good instructional leaders? In 1992, I ran for the state legislature and was elected 4 terms to the state house. I represented Saluda County and Lexington County, served on the education committees, ways and means, and really got to know legislators and have kept those relationships very open and honest and respectful over all of my career. In 1998, I went to the Department of Education and worked for 6 years as a deputy for governmental affairs, where I lobbied and worked on education policy for the Department of Education, worked with the business community and legislators. And for the last 9 years, I've been very honored to work with the 36, now almost 3,700 members, principals, district office, superintendents across this state, working with the business community to advance public education. I look forward to sharing with you during the question time the things that I'm for. I think it's a critical time in our state. We've got to move our state forward. And I believe that all of my relationships and my service has brought me to this point to be uniquely qualified. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to inform everybody that Ms. Atwater, Sally Atwater, who's also a candidate, is unable to be here. She's got a great reason. Her first grandchild is being born, and she's attending that birth. So we're going to have her back at a later time. Let everybody know why she wasn't here. Question number 2, and you will start back with the spirit. So Common Core is an attempt by the DC special interest groups and the federal government to herd children into a one-size-fits-all national standards. States were coerced by the federal government into adopting the standards, resulting in a illegal federal takeover of education. The Common Core standards have never been field tested, were approved without a cost analysis, removed parental and local control, contain academically inferior content, include massive unfunded mandates, and will lead to significant threats to a student and family privacy. More than 20 states have legislation pending to repeal Common Core. Here's the question. This is the definition of Common Core from South Carolina parents involved in education. What's your position on Common Core, and specifically, are you for it or against it? Ms. Spearman.
And 1 minute, Brian.
Yes, ma'am. 1 minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've heard Sherry give that description. I am supporting Senator Mike Fair's compromise. I know that some folks believe that Common Core should be repealed immediately in S300. The fact of governing, that you have to govern, and we have many school districts, my own district has already implemented Common Core. And in order to keep learning going on in our classrooms, I think Senator Fair has come up with a good solution. His amendment does say that no information, no data would be sent back to Washington that should not be sent. Calls for the test to be changed and that decision to be opened up. I believe that we need to do that. I support using ACT in the high school. I think it gives better information. And it also calls for a review of the standards in 3 to 5 years. Currently it would be in 10 years, and I believe that South Carolina teachers should review the standards, and we would go from there with those.
Thank you, Ms. Spearman. Ms. Moffett?
Could you repeat the definition?
We got to share a few that.
No, I'm against Common Core. I mean, I was against the No Child Left Behind. This is a waiver from the No Child Left Behind, which actually under the waiver to give us flexibility under the No Child Left Behind, it specifically stated that either we could adopt a national standard or our standards could be approved by our institutions of higher ed, which they already were. So there was no, ultimately what ended up happening is the department, the Education Oversight Committee and the State Board of Education ended up outsourcing our standards instead of revising our standards and have quality of standards, because that's the only thing Common Core did was lessen the standards so you could spend more time, but I'm not for a national standard. I believe in state standards and innovation and creativity, and that being a state's right. And so that's why standards of learning are so important, that we revise them to make them age, grade, developmentally appropriate so teachers can teach and students can learn the fundamental basics of reading, writing, and math. And so we could do this in our own state. There's no reason to adopt them. I know in Charleston, we're the 2nd largest district, we have yet to implement Common Core. So this idea that we've already spent money to implement it is not true.
Sure.
I'm for
It's all?
or a compromise. And that's the only thing that will work. Example, Charleston hasn't adopted a lot of districts out, so they got textbooks in the districts. And as I understand it, they're there for 6 years. So you just can't go around and start taking them all textbooks. In October, I was a member of the South Carolina Council of Teachers for Math, and that entire organization was Common Core. It's obvious that this is a controversial issue and it won't work as it is. But I have the means and the teacher experts to correct that and to make it acceptable in South Carolina. I was part of the group that developed the curriculum for government school in Marshall in the 80s. I was also part of the hands-on guidelines, and then the inquiry guidelines in the 90s. And I didn't do too much with the Common Core, but all of these improve every time. And so there's time. Common Core is over.
Well, let me just say again that my primary priority will be to get rid of Common Core once I'm elected Superintendent of Education. We already know, many of you have attended presentations that we've done, or you've seen a presentation about how horrible it is. So any excuse about having spent money or teachers have already been trained or any of that is just ridiculous. It's like saying, let's keep Obamacare because we've already spent money on a website that doesn't work. It's causing psychological damage to children. K-3 standards are causing young children to cry, and there's even a syndrome they've named in New York called Common Core Syndrome because of what it's doing to young children. So to think that any leader or any candidate who wants to become the leader of the education system in South Carolina would turn a blind eye to that and suggest that we should compromise is just beyond belief. I won't do that. I won't compromise. I will not rest until we get rid of Common Core. Thank you.
Ms. Copeland?
Thank you. Last year, my 8th grade son came home from school, and on a usual day, I said, Kessler, what do you have for homework tonight? And he said, I don't have any homework tonight. So I said, okay. The next day, he came home, and I asked him again, Kessler, what do we have for homework? And he said, Mom, I don't have to do homework anymore. They don't grade it. So since they don't grade it, 8th graders don't do it. The next thing I found out is that if he did not do well on his test that was scheduled on Friday, that was also no big deal. Because guess what? He could take it over again. He could get a redo. I said we don't get redos in life. And I'm trying to teach my child to be competitive in this world that we live in. I'm against Common Core. Legally, what can we do to stop Common Core? We continue to fight with our legislature. Common Core is indeed here for performance. Our job is to evaluate it so that we can prove whether or not it works.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland. Ms. Childs?
When I was serving on the Education Oversight Committee back in 2010, I stood firm with parents, teachers, and students and voted against the Common Core state standards. Hopefully, as your next state superintendent of education, once in office, I will work to rewrite the standards, convening a writing panel of South Carolinians to offer up a recommendation for what will be South Carolina standards for South Carolina students. I articulated then the concerns that I have with Common Core. As the next state superintendent of education, I pledge to you that I will fight to protect the powers we grant to our state by eliminating federal overreach. I believe the Common Core, particularly with the incentives that were offered through it, for it, is an example of federal overreach into education. Education is a matter that should be left to the states, particularly parents, teachers, students, and local leadership.
Mr. Burgess?
Common Core is a violation of the United States Constitution. We need to know it's a federal overreach. As a school superintendent, we always wasted money because the feds and the state government would change things mid-season. To say that we will continue with Common Core is ludicrous. It's like a doctor saying, Gary, I prescribe you bad medicine, but because it's so costly, it's killing you, we will not do another prescription, continue to take that medicine. But Common Core is killing our students and our teachers, and 8 out of 10 teachers I've talked to don't understand Common Core. They do not like Common Core. We need to get rid of Common Core. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burgess. So obviously the Common Core question was asked, but we also had people that submitted questions from across the state of South Carolina. These are individual questions to each of the candidates. Ms. Spearman, we'll start with you. You served as a Democrat in the State House before you switched to the Republican Party. And then you served in the South Carolina Department of Education under Democrat Superintendent Inez Tenenbaum. You now serve as the Director of the South Carolina Association of School Administrators, which some would argue is the effect of a teachers union. With that background, how do you expect to convince Republicans, and especially conservatives, to vote for you in a Republican primary in June?
Thank you. Well, I grew up in Saluda County, and I don't know about you folks in the audience, but if you live back in South Carolina, Governor Edwards was our first Republican governor, followed by Carroll Campbell. Most all folks, even Strom Thurmond was a Democrat, and that's what happened in my family. We were Democrats. I was elected. I went to the State House, and I saw that as things worked out, I aligned more closely with the Republican Party, and I was very welcomed and encouraged to switch, and I did that. Speaker David Wilkins, Lieutenant Governor Bob Peeler, and a number of great Republicans were there and welcomed me into the party that day, and many others have switched since then and are more aligned with that. In 1998, I rode the bus with Governor David Beasley all across the state for about 3 weeks, introducing candidates, and I introduced David Ekstrom, who was a Republican candidate for Superintendent of Education at the time. He did not win. I got a phone call from Inez Tenenbaum, who did win. She was a Democrat. She said, I want you to come work for me. I said, Inez, I didn't even vote for you. I don't know you, but she asked me to come and work for her, and just like with the President of the United States, I think it invites someone to come work on their staff. It's our call of duty, and that's what I did, and I've had
just to follow up to that, you didn't, I was cutting the time there, but I do want to follow up. You didn't address the job as Director of the South Carolina Association of School Administrators, which some people say that's teachers union. So.
Well, it's not a union.
Okay.
It's a professional association, just like many of you are members of the Medical Association, or if you're my dad's a farmer, he's a member of Farm Bureau. We pay our dues, and yes, I'm proud that I have represented the voice of public educators across this state, and I've done it with passion, and I've done it in the best interest of the children of the state.
Thank you. I'll skip around here, so bear with me, but I got one for everybody. Ms. Few, we know you're against Common Core, and we appreciate your efforts on that. But is that your only issue, and what are the duties of the State Superintendent of Education?
Well, I think I kind of already addressed that. I've already had criticism that it's my only issue. And I preface it by saying that until we stop Common Core, none of these other ideas are going to work. And I referenced the reading program as an example. You know, another issue that I have talked a lot about is the liberal indoctrination that's been happening in public schools for decades. And this is an issue that I don't hear any of the other candidates talking about. I've studied education policy for over 15 years, and I have followed this trend. I've seen it in my own children's textbooks, and I know that what's being taught is often anti-American and anti-Christian. I'm not a part of the education system. I never have been. I'm a parent. I'm a concerned parent that's been involved with her children's education, and that's what led me to start the nonprofit organization, South Carolina Parents Involved in Education, and I have worked very hard over the 13 years that I've directed that organization to try to be a voice for parents and taxpayers to stop this liberal indoctrination of children. So that is going to be another big priority for me once we repeal Common Core.
Can you do 30 seconds to touch base on the State Superintendent of Education duties?
Well, yes. In fact, you can find them on my website because I think it is important for everyone to understand what the responsibilities are. First of all, the Superintendent of Education oversees the education budget and is responsible for implementing the things that are adopted and approved by the State Board of Education. You know, in a big sense, it's much a bully pulpit, and that's how I plan to use it. And I will use it not only to repeal Common Core, but to make sure that our state finally is convinced that school choice is the way that we're going to find solutions through the free market for public education.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Ms. Childs, you served as Dr. Zace's, or in his administration as his deputy. What would you do differently than Dr. Zace?
Well, in my platform, I describe the things I do to make sure that we're preparing each child to be ready for work or college and ready for citizenship. Among the things that I will emphasize is making sure that we fight to individualize education. I believe that we need to make sure that we're offering parents all of the options that they need to match their child to the learning environment that will best serve their child's needs. I also believe that we need to fight to ensure that parents are that they're empowered with money following the child, so that as they are making choices, they're not limited by financial barriers to serve their children. I'd also fight to bring real accountabilities in our classrooms, protect the powers enumerated to our state by eliminating federal overreach. I will spend a good bit of my energy focusing on what we can do to eliminate the federal government's intrusion into what's clearly a state function.
Thank you. Mr. James, this was submitted today. What are your plans to evaluate the percentage of resources to the classroom? In other words, South Carolina students spend about 43% of its education budget on instruction, while the rest of the nation allocates about 54% of its education budget to instruction.
My question?
Yes, sir.
Could you repeat that?
Yes, sir, of
You
course.
said Mr. James, so I didn't.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jordan. I did do that wrong. I apologize. I'm glad I didn't do it. What are your plans to evaluate the percentage of resources to the classroom? In other words, South Carolina spends about 43% of its education budget on instruction, while the rest of the nation allocates about 54% of its education budget to instruction.
That's a tough question to answer. I don't have an answer for that, but I don't have an answer for that. I haven't studied that unless I've studied it, but certainly I would look into it, but I wasn't prepared for, percentages of instruction in the classroom.
Okay. Ms. Cofield, what is your position, this was, again, all these were submitted. What is your position on the State Department commandeering failing school districts?
That me?
No, I'm sorry, Ms. Cofield.
Commandeering.
Just taking over school districts. Is how
We
they look at it.
have many school districts. Can you hear me with that microphone?
We'd like to have a microphone with
Love
the
it.
media, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Apologize for our technical
Am
difficulties.
I good? Okay. We have many failing school districts in South Carolina. We have school districts that are too large. We have school districts that are too small. I agree with Governor Haley that we need to move our funding to some of these school districts to help improve technology, improve teachers going there and staying there. Whether or not the Department of Education should take over a school district, if they are failing and they are given opportunities to improve or correct themselves and they can't or won't, then I don't see any other alternative than to step in and provide assistance to get them where they need to be.
Thank you. Ms. Moffett, how should teachers be evaluated? What would be your plan for evaluating teachers?
This is a very contentious issue in our county right now. We have a nonprofit it's a bunch of teachers called Ed First, and they are furious with the evaluation system, the way that Charleston County is approaching it. I would like to see we already have an evaluation system that's in place in the state I don't know why we keep trying to reinvent the wheel, and it's been a very effective evaluation system, but I think having portfolios of teachers' work with the students is something that needs to be included. I don't think it should be an all or nothing, especially high-stakes standardized testing, because that's individual students. And a teacher can only do with the ability of each student that they have in the classroom, and you have varying ability. And so to set a standard for all teachers to make sure that all students reach that same bar would not be effective.
Thank you, Ms. Mocker. Mr. Burgess. In 2009, you were arrested and charged for solicitation at a immoral act in Darwin Park in Anderson County. You were later found not guilty. With that in your past, even though you were found not guilty, if you win the nomination, how could you possibly win the general election?
I will win the general election as state superintendent because, one, it was an allegation I was found not guilty, so in the court of law. Two, I'm a fighter, just like with the Common Core and other things. If somebody was willing to go into the department and be willing to die, if you look at death in order to get things done. It's amazing that in America we talk about the Constitution, but the 5th, 6th, and 7th Amendment of the Constitution states that a person is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. And I'm innocent on the allegation, innocent as I went to court, and found innocent as a result of a trial and as a result of a jury of my peers. And I will have no problem standing up, looking people in the eye, and talking with them about what the issues are in the state of South Carolina. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. In South Carolina, currently state and federal education funds follow children to state public charter schools. County funds do not. Do you think county funds should follow the school to state public charter schools, and why? Let's start with Mr. Burgess.
Kevin, yes I do. As the next state superintendent of education, I plan to make sure that the public understands that money should follow the child, that individuals, parents have the right to send their children where they want to go to school. And in fact, as a misnomer in the state, charter schools are public schools. They're not private schools, they're public schools. And charter schools get the same funding, I believe, as regular public schools.
Thank you, Ms. Burgess. Ms. Childs, you want to go down that way?
Yes, as the next state superintendent of education, I'm committed to doing all I can to fight to individualize education. And I believe that part of that is supporting parents by not just making them aware of options, but providing them with high-quality options. I count high-quality charter schools among those options that parents should have at their disposal. An important component of parents being empowered is making sure that the money is following the child to the learning environment that parents choose. So to your question specifically about local funds, yes, I agree that local funds should follow children to the environment that their parents choose. And that we need to make sure we're doing all we can to give parents real choices.
Thank you. Yes, I believe that money should follow the child. We have charter schools in South Carolina for a reason, and that's to serve children who have special needs, whether they're learning disabled or whether they're gifted, or whether their parent just wants them to go to a different school. Competition is good. If you're a good school and you lose a child to a charter school, if you're good enough to compete, you're going to pick up other children. Competition is good in business and it's good in our schools.
I also agree that all the money should follow the child, not just the state and federal funds. And I'll take it even a step further. When candidates say the money should follow the child, I think we should be clear about what we're saying and not be afraid to say the word vouchers. Our state needs vouchers so that parents can take the money that goes for their child and use it in the institution, whether it be public, private, or charter, that's in the best interest of the child. I was in Jasper County last night. Jasper County apparently has one of the worst school districts in the state, and they want the state to come in and take over their schools. And I had to differ with them because I believe in local control. But that night, as I picked up something to eat as I was tucking in, I asked a woman who was working at Subway, who has a young child in school, if she would appreciate having a voucher so she could choose where her child could attend school, and she was very excited about that option. That's what we need to do to bring equity to schools, not take funding from richer school districts and give it to poorer ones. That's just redistribution of wealth.
Mr. Jordan.
My motto is that benefits the student, let's do it. And I work with charter schools all over the state, and they do very well with the contests I run and the advanced programs I run. As an administrator, state administrator, and I've got I had the authority to tell a school district what to do with their money, I won't do it. The school district should be able to decide what they do. I am for charter schools. I am for putting money there, and I think we're blessed to have it. But you have to look at each individual district. You just can't make a complete statement and say we're going to do it this way for all districts in the state of South Carolina. So I'll have to go to the district and listen. And one of the things I'm going to do the first year in office is I'm going to visit every single school district in the state of South Carolina, and I'm going to listen. Thank you.
Mr. Jordan, I would say that, you say it's the district's money, but it's the taxpayers' money first. So I think that's kind of the gist of what I've been meeting with a lot of people, is keep that in mind. It's the taxpayers' money before it goes to the school district. So, I guess, let's see, Ms. Moffitt.
I've always been for charter schools. I even sent my daughter to a charter school. But the biggest issue that we have with the charter law is there's no facility funding. In Charleston County, we had our board to put a moratorium on expansion of charter schools because it is a fair amount of funding that comes from the county level. And I do agree that the money should follow the child, but I also think that we need to do something about facility funding for our charter schools at the state level.
As the chairman of a charter school, I agree with your comment there.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Spear.
I support good schools, whether they're charter schools, regular public, regular traditional schools, and in my career I have worked with the charter community to help them get more funding. And to set up now, we have the statewide charter school district. Superintendent Wayne Braswell's doing a great job. I was down in Beaufort yesterday and visited a very exciting Bridges charter school there in Beaufort County. The principal told me that they are having a tough time and they do need more funding. They chose to go into the statewide district. Now, the question though is a little bit, if they're in the local district, they do get those local funds. So that was a little misleading there because charter schools do get local funds if they're funded through their local district. They're not getting it if they're at the state level. And so I would work to help those charter schools get more funding there through the state level because they're not affiliated with those local districts.
So you'd be against, to clarify, you'd be against taking it from the local school district but giving it in another area?
No. The districts, and you have to understand, we have two different systems for charter schools in this state. They can be chartered through their local district, and if they are, they get local.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a chairman of a charter school with the state charter school district. Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
They're with the state charter district. I think the way that we will need to go, because it's not set up. Some of those students may be coming from other districts. They can have a different parameter, different attendance zones, which crosses districts. So what we need to do there is to fund them with more funding through the state so that they can have equal funding. I would support that for those charter schools.
Well, this was a question that was asked. We've got some time, so why don't we get each candidate to ask another candidate a question. So, I don't like these little power puff forms, as you can tell. That was a question, so I'm stalling a little bit to give everybody a little time to think of a question if you haven't done so. I'll start in the middle this time instead of the ends. Ms. Few, would you like to start first?
Not really.
Excuse me, could you clarify the amount of time for the question and the amount of time for the answer for that?
Yeah, let's do 1 minute for the question, or 1 minute for the question and answer. Let's go there. Good point.
All right, I'll take a stab at it. Sharmika, this summer, when you were in the Office of Superintendent of Education and we're working with the proposed science standards. Can you tell us if the first draft that went up was the next generation science standards?
I can, I'm not sure if it's still working. My emphasis as the next state superintendent of education will be on ensuring that each child receives a high school diploma that prepares them for work or college and regularly prepares them for citizenship. The standards that we adopt and implement are a key part of that preparation. As it relates to the proposed science standards this summer, the process for standards to get adopted is for a writing panel to come together. The agency convenes that panel. We review what they submit and eventually offer up a recommendation to the State Board of Education. When the panel originally offered their proposal to the South Carolina Department of Education, I had to stand in front of taxpayers, parents, and students and reject what they originally submitted because members of that external panel were attempting to use aspects of the next generation science standards in what was brought forward to the South Carolina Department of Education. So I directed staff to reconvene the panel. Unfortunately, they refused, and we had to take additional steps to get South Carolina standards for South Carolina students.
Ms. Kendrick, may I ask your question?
Okay, Nick, I'm gonna get you up again. It appears to me that the current public view of your department that you've been employed is one of lackluster and lack of proactive. It's also been viewed as controversial and unapproaching. How do you respond to those kind of adjectives that I've been hearing about the department?
I put forward a clear vision for how we can make sure that each child who receives a high school diploma in our state is prepared for work or college and prepared for citizenship. The vision I've laid forward is one that's positive, proactive, and I think one that will help prepare our students for what they will face when they leave our high schools. So I've offered a proposal for what I believe we can do to make sure our students are prepared. And I believe that vision will stand for itself, speak for itself, and what we need to do to move our state forward.
Thank you. Let's see, Mr. Burgess.
Is that a question or to ask?
I'm sorry, I apologize, sir. That's a question. Please repeat the
I want
question.
to ask Mr. Bierman a question about the South Carolina Association of School Administrators. I went on the website today, and people need to visit the website, and it has facts about SC public education, facts as well about Common Core, and your organization is a Democratic-leaning organization, even though you don't really support that. How do you go about justifying the Common Core stance and support as a Republican?
Could you pass it down?
Yes, your website.
Right. And I'm not sure where you get that, that we're Democratic leaning. That's, I don't understand that. Most of my members are Republicans, and I don't know where you get that from. That's about South Carolina public education, Common Core, really in South Carolina. We try to give as a nonprofit, we try to give out information that's correct and accurate. And even in political campaigns, we don't support candidates. We just try to give facts about all candidates. And I think if you go on our site and you would pull up this information tonight, you would see that all of this information is factual. There's a lot of rhetoric, and rhetoric sells big. But I think our voters now are wanting to hear what's honest facts. And that's what we try to do as an association. We provide good information. We don't try to scare people. We tell them what it's about. And so that's why it's on air. It's factual information.
If anybody else has a mic on, if you're not talking, maybe turn it off and try to get some feedback. That's it. Mr. Jordan. You can ask your question, anybody here, yes,
All
sir.
right, I'm gonna ask my question myself. Why are you running for this office if you're a full professor, tenured, and got a good job? And I've explained that to y'all about the kids can't go to school now because the tuition is so high. But in talking with past students about this, he said I needed to see a psychologist. So I went over to the psychologist, and we sat there for a while. And we sat down, and he kept talking to me, and he said, well, what's the matter with you? I said, sometimes I feel like I'm a TP, and other times I feel like I'm a wigwam. And he studied that a little bit, and a little bit. He said, okay, I know what's wrong. 2 tenths. Ms. Chow?
So you're gonna get through. Make sure that the mic's on.
As the next state superintendent of education, hopefully, one of the things I will emphasize is preparing our kids for what they'll face when they leave school. I believe that preparing them, hopefully, for careers in science, technology, engineering, and math is an area where we need to.
Is that a question, and who is it directed to?
It will be directed towards Dr. Jordan.
Got it.
Okay. I believe that it's part of our efforts to prepare our students for what they'll face when they leave school. Is to ensure that we're looking at preparing students for careers in the sciences, technologies, engineering, and math. With your expertise, I would love to hear your feedback, your input on ways that you think we could strengthen our efforts to prepare our students for what we know to be a burgeoning area of growth for careers, both in academics but also otherwise.
Glad you asked. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to rewrite the guidelines. And they didn't get it right in the 80s, they didn't get it right in the 90s, and hadn't got it right now because they left out the measurement. A chemistry teacher has to stop right now and teach the metric system. Chemistry is 100% metric. Nanotechnology is jostling the right to be taught in life sciences in the 7th grade. Computer science is not taught in the 4th grade. Giving a student a computer in a classroom and thinking they're a computer, get involved with computer science is about like me having a stove in my house and saying I'm a chef. I'm not. So I would want to see a little more emphasis starting in the 4th grade with some technology where we start trying to tingle the toes of students to get involved with technology by introducing some computer science. And I can go on and on and on with this question, but I have to do it. Ms. Moffitt, I believe you're up.
Actually, I have a question that I've been asking several people, and I just might as well ask the person that the question would be best answered, and that would be to Jamaica. Why did you resign from the State Department of Education as Deputy Superintendent, where you actually could affect change, to run for an elected position?
You know, I count it a blessing that I've had the opportunity to serve in the different capacities, the different opportunities that have been open to me. I've been a school teacher. I've worked on Governor Sanford's staff. Of course, I served on the Education Oversight Committee, and yes, I do again count it as a blessing that I was able to serve with General Zace as a Deputy State Superintendent of Education. I left a very strong transition plan and left my division in good standing, in good stead, and they are moving forward, executing the vision that Dr. Zace has. I also believe, though, that in order to pursue this with my whole heart, I need to be focused on the campaign. So once I made sure we had everything shored up, I was ready to transition to the campaign trail, both because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't distracted in making decisions as a deputy superintendent, but also wanted to make sure that I left the agency in a strong position. So rather than protecting my particular interests, I made an offering to our taxpayers, to our students, and resigned the position so that I could find a new way to serve our children.
Thank you. I'm going to take advantage of this also in a respectful way to ask Dr. Jordan, as a college professor. It's our students enter your classroom, what skills, what do you see that their strengths, that they're good at, what weaknesses do you see of how we need to better prepare these students?
Well, you know, the University of South Carolina, we don't have any weak students, so that's a pretty tough question. I've been teaching math at all levels. I've taught 25 different courses at USC, and I teach graduate courses online out of my office using Adobe Connect. And if you go back to, say just the calculus classes and the elementary classes, I can see a very much improvement in the average score on the calculus test. The example I just gave, the calculus test, and the first one, the average was 86. That's not bad in calculus. The second one usually goes down, it was at 83, and that was a lot higher than it usually is each year. So at USC, I believe that the students that we have there are well prepared. There are some that need assistance. I worked with 2 students before I came here about 3 o'clock this afternoon that neither one made a high score. I told them to come see me. We went over the test verbatim. I changed the score on the test 5 points. And I think that leads to them to motivate them to do better on the next test. So I don't think I answered your question the right way, but that is a way.
Thanks, sir. So we're going to do this one, lightning round, and then we're going to see if anybody in the audience wants a question. So we're going to do this quickly. So the question to every candidate, Mr. Burke, we're going to start with you and go down the road. Are you for school choice? Specifically, do you support state, federal, and local?
Where I'm told, hearing me.
Can you hear me now? Well, I'll try to be loud. Sorry, I was trying to deal with feedback a second here. Sorry. All right, let's go again. Are you for school choice? Specifically, are you in favor of state, federal, and local funds following the child to private schools or any other school?
Yes, I'm a Wofford graduate, and I went there on a lot of grants and scholarships.
It's like to say yes or no.
Oh, yes or no? Oh, like me?
Yes, sir. I apologize.
Yes.
Ms. Childs?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, we were just trying to tell Dr. Drew.
Ms. Cofield, did you answer? I apologize.
I did, yes.
Okay, I didn't hear. I apologize.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
It depends if there's accountability. I could support it.
Okay. All right, anybody in the audience? Does anybody have a question they would like to ask the candidates? Yes, ma'am?
I have a couple questions.
Well, let's start with one and then we'll come back around. How about that?
Okay, that works, because I study all this, and I read about it. I don't even watch TV for over a year, because I sit and read about this and other issues. And one of the questions I have, actually one of them, I'll say this, Ms. Motley, you talked about high school graduation rates, and what I read, 56% graduate in South Carolina. And we're talking about vocational tech and different kinds of diplomas. If we did a system like that, and I think it's a great idea for an idea, at least you're thinking of ideas. Nobody, a lot of other in the public school system, they have no ideas. They keep doing the same, fail. And so I give you credit that way. But if that would have been the system when I was coming up, I'm an airline pilot for a major airline. I would have been geared into cleaning bathrooms somewhere, because you know what? I came through the school system and it didn't work. I learned to read on my own. I learned to do math on my own. And my question, I got such a yuck feeling, because I think we should be having real solutions to these problems. And everything I read, it just makes me.
Question.
The question is.
Please.
The question is, what would you? Any of you guys. Why say? Are you gonna stop Common Core? Ms. Childs, are you guys, are you going to pull it out? Are you going to do something different? Are we that stupid in this state that we can't stop it and do something better ourselves? I want an answer to that. I want to know. I think that we are, you guys are supposed to be intelligent, but we've got doctor's degrees, PhDs, and sometimes I think it's better like George Washington.
Yes, ma'am, ma'am, I love your passion, but I do want to give you an answer to the question.
Will you stop it and bring
I will,
ideas?
yes. Okay, no, I can't
like
do that.
I heard people say, well, and I've heard
Still no, ma'am, I'm sorry, but please the question.
Will you stop and get Common Core out of this state? He is exactly right, it's unconstitutional. Will you stop it? Not just make it better.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. Mr. Burgess, let's go down the line real quick.
How many?
Just yes or no?
Oh, well, I can't do yes or no. The answer is yes, but
You answer.
I do that as well.
He answered.
Okay, let's afterwards, because I'm going to wrap this up in a second.
Yes, I work to rewrite the standards. I wanted you to hear my answer. I'm against Common Core.
Yes or no, yes?
Just like that.
Yes, ma'am, because we're trying to get more questions.
I don't know
This is
if
taking
legally the state superintendent can walk
No,
in
ma'am.
and say it's wrong.
Yes or no, please? We know Sherry's who passed.
You know my answer. Come on, now.
I can't answer that yes or no, because
All right, Ms. Moffett?
Most definitely, yes.
I can't answer yes or no either, because,
Okay.
as I said, I support what Senator Mike Fair is doing. I really
Thank
do.
you. Mr. Richardson, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. My question is, and this is to East Canada, do you think that the public schools in the state of South Carolina could ever be closed?
Ms. Spearman, let's start with you on that side then.
I couldn't hear the whole question. Kevin, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Say that again, Court, should they be able to close school districts or?
Yes, my question was, do you feel like the public schools in the state of South Carolina are safe, or could they ever be closed? That's my question.
Should they ever be closed?
Yes.
I pray to God they won't, because it's our state constitution that that is one thing that we're supposed to
15
educate every
seconds.
child
Yeah,
in
15
this
seconds.
state.
You know, I'm just giving you 15 seconds instead of yes or no. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
You know, it says in the state constitution that every child in the state, that's the one state responsibility that we have, is to educate every child. And opportunity happens through that schoolhouse door, and I'm a product of that. I'm not sure whether you are or not, sir. I got a feeling maybe you are too. But I pray that we improve them and we continue to serve families across
We're just going to give everybody 15 seconds instead of just to allow you guys a little bit of time to explain, to answer your request.
Well, I think we need to identify why schools are not performing and address those issues. And for me, I think that we have good education in South Carolina, we just have bad policies. When you have 50% of Title I money going to a school because it's required to have 50%, you're putting 50% of low and reduced.
Mr. Jordan?
is it easy? No.
Ms. Hugh?
I believe that government needs to get out of public education. And I think that the options with vouchers will create the competition where a parent can choose a government-run school or a private school or a charter school, all sorts of options. So we need a voucher system.
Ms. Cofield?
No, but if a particular school is in dire straits and does not improve, I think it has to have some implementation from somewhere to get it going.
Ms. Childs?
I will fight to individualize education. I believe parents should be empowered to take their money where they think their child will be best served, which is why I think that money should follow the child, and that American market forces will resolve the problem we're having with low-performing schools.
Yes, some public schools need to be closed without question.
All right, we're going to do a 2-minute closing statement at this time. We'll start with Ms. Spearman. Sorry, Ms. Cofield. Yes, ma'am.
Thank y'all again for being here tonight. I'm running because I
You
do
talk
feel.
louder. I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. I've got, is it on upstairs?
Switch mic.
It's on, but it's just the volume. Hello, testing. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm running, as are all of our candidates. You see that we're passionate. I do believe I'm well qualified. I've spent my career trying to move the state forward, dedicated to public education. And that's what the state superintendent is supposed to be, the ambassador for public education in the state. And I would do that. And I would bring all the people to the table. I do believe that we have to make immediate changes. And Governor Haley has done a wonderful job to bring in over 40,000 jobs. We're having trouble filling those jobs because our graduates aren't prepared. But it also takes parents taking a responsibility and parents understanding that not everybody's got to go to college today, that there are great jobs out there through our technical system. I would work to enhance our college and career centers, to make those regional college and career centers so that students could cross district lines, that they could attend those if they're interested in a major at those college and career services. I'd work to enhance teaching. Those are the two things that don't cost a lot but can make a difference. A great teacher in every classroom and a great principal in every school who understands instruction and who can help those teachers if they're not doing well, and can document and get them and help them find another job if they can't become an effective teacher. I would appreciate your support on June 10th. Thank you.
I'm running because I'm an advocate for our students. And I think if you make policies that are in the best interest of our students, then it works for not only teachers, parents, but school districts. And we have policies, when I talk about our standards of learning, it's very important, which today it's very important. I spoke about standards in 06, 10, and now, and people would just get glassy-eyed, what are you talking about? But it's what we do every day in our classroom. And now I think it's come to the forefront with the adoption of the Common Core by the State Board of Education, how important those standards are. And when you correct the standards of learning, like I said, to make them age, grade, and developmentally appropriate so we have quality, then you affect not only student achievement, but you also affect instructional quality. And that is the main thing that we really need to do, and along with our high school diplomas. But, you know, the great thing about being the state superintendent is you do get to be the figurehead to bring policies to light, to not only with the State Board of Education, I understand working with boards, but the Education Oversight Committee and the General Assembly. It's about collaboration and cooperation. This is about relationships and being able to forge those relationships and understanding what the constituents want. As a school board member, I understand constituent service and who elected me and who I answer to. And I would appreciate your consideration on June 10th. Thank you.
I'm student-oriented. I'm student-oriented at university. I'm teacher-oriented. I've worked with teachers all over the state. If it benefits the student, I want to do it. On the issue of Common Core, I'm going to tell you some good things about it. I'm going to tell you some bad things about it. You cannot just delete it. It only includes math and language arts. We still got science, social studies. And one of the things that Common Core leaves out is it doesn't talk about computer science. It doesn't talk about music. It doesn't talk about the special areas. And, you know, those are very important. I mean, exercise in school is very important. Students don't need to be in the classroom all the time. They need this variety of things. So here's what's good about Common Core. If you ask a kindergarten or a first grade student what 2 + 2 is, and they say 4, and you say, okay, now tell me why. And you give them 4 blocks, and they put 2 blocks over here, and they put 2 blocks over here, and then they combine them together, so that's 4. They get that right. If they're unable to give you an example, you show that example, then you ask them what 2 + 3 is and see if they can now show you that. That's not a bad deal. Here's a bad deal in Common Core. You ask a student, Bridge A is 486 meters, and Bridge B is 523 meters. And the student says Bridge B is larger. And the teacher says no. And it slams down the student because they didn't compare the digits and the units and the hundreds place. That's wrong. Any reading material that's horrible shouldn't be in the classroom. And if that's happening with Common Core, as we can read on the internet. So I offer, you know, I look forward to rewriting and with the teachers in the state of South Carolina the standards, and they will be rewritten.
There's nothing good in Common Core. The only good thing about Common Core is it has caused parents and taxpayers across the country to wake up and see what's happening in public education. Now, you know, of course, that that is my priority, but you also need to know that I never intended to run for Superintendent of Education. I never dreamed that I'd be sitting before you today as a candidate. I've been traveling the state for 12 months, educating people about the problems with Common Core, organizing leaders across the state with a strategy to repeal Common Core, which I work on still daily as we are monitoring the S-300 bill to repeal. And we will continue fighting until that bill is passed. And if it is not passed, who is elected Superintendent of Education is extremely important, because the next opportunity to rid our state of Common Core will be in the hands of the next superintendent. And I'm here today to tell you that I am the one who has proven the tenacity, the courage, and the strength to fight this thing until it's gone. And there can't be any other education improvement until we get rid of it. You can't build on something that's a disaster and destroying public education. So beyond that, I just need to let you know that that, of course, is my priority. That's the reason I'm running. 2 people asked me 3 or 4 months ago if I would consider running. I said no. I need to continue what I'm doing. What I'm doing is very important. And then the day before Dr. Zase announced he would not seek re-election, I was asked by Senator Larry Grooms, who's the primary sponsor of the bill to repeal Common Core, "Sherry, won't you at least pray about running?" So I couldn't deny prayer. I prayed, and I know with all my heart that God has called me for such a time as this. And I am the leader that has proven that they have the ability to stop this and to take the momentum that where parents and taxpayers have woken up and recognized what's happening in public schools and make the kind of changes that are going to be effective in improving South Carolina's education.
Who in this room knows Senator Katrina Shealy? If you know Senator Shealy, you know she's one of the most conservative senators in our state. She came to my office a few weeks ago and she sat across from my desk and she looked at me and she asked me to run for State Superintendent of Education. I refused. Obviously not for long. She looked at me in the eye and she said, "South Carolina needs you. You have everything it takes to run this job." The more I thought about it, the more I knew she was right. I have the background. I have the experience. I want to make sure that every child in South Carolina is given the opportunity to reach his or her God-given potential. As a former teacher, I want to strive to interact you and parents and teachers in the decision-making progress. I also want to make sure that teachers are given fair evaluations so that we reward good teachers and we keep good teachers in our school. I ask that you remember Amy Cofield, you remember my qualifications, and vote for me on June 10th.
I'd like to become the next state superintendent of education because I want to ensure that each child is ready for work or college and ready for citizenship. There are 5 things that I pledge to you as the next state superintendent of education. First, I will bring accountability to every classroom. Schools need to be accountable to students, and the South Carolina Department of Education needs to be accountable to taxpayers. Second, I will fight to ensure that we individualize education, whether it's homeschooling, private school, traditional schools, magnet schools, Montessori programs, virtual schools. The options are growing. I think we need to empower parents to make real decisions about how and where their child is educated, because parents know best the motivations, the aspirations, and the needs of their children. We need to empower them with choices and allow the money to follow the child. The third thing I will focus on is protecting the power enumerated to our state by eliminating federal overreach. Because, look, I've read this Constitution and I just don't see where there's a role for the federal government in education in South Carolina. I believe that education is a power, an issue, a matter best left to states, particularly parents, teachers, and local leaders. Fourth, I will fight to make sure that we are attracting the very best teachers, because we all know that if we're serious about each child having high-quality instruction every single day, we need strong teachers leading our classrooms. The fifth thing I'll fight for is to make sure that we improve opportunity and community involvement, because we all know that many of the challenges our schools face, they're not going to be able to solve on their own. I ask that you support me with your vote. Go to my website, mikachiles.com, and learn more about what I like to accomplish. And if possible, please consider making an investment into my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank Kevin for organizing this event tonight. There's a destiny that makes us brothers and sisters. None go this way alone. All that was into the lives of others will certainly come back into our own. I'm glad that someone wrote that question down. As a result of my defending the child's right to wear the Confederate battle flag, the liberal destroy and kill machine came after me and left me for politically dead, but I never died. Easy. And we need to understand, you will need, as your next superintendent, a fighter who will go to Columbia and will speak up and say what needs to be said. We can be politically correct all we want to, we can cave in, but if we don't get someone in that office who will stand up, who has the experience, who knows what's going on in the state, who knows that there's no reason why a child should not be able to read after they've been in school 4 years old through 3rd grade. And then we say we're going to have a career in college ready. The problem ain't at the high school level. The problem is here. I learned to read and write. My parents didn't read and write to me. I was the first kid to go to college in my church. But I went to school reading and writing. I didn't have kindergarten. We went to school at 6 years old. Folks, the deal is this. We want to change public education in South Carolina. We'll allow parents to have a choice as to where their kids go. We'll let folk do what needs to be done. Folk often ask me, and I love the Republican creed of last part, because during that ordeal, Kevin, I'm not sure if you've ever been through it, but I am an American. I've experienced the American dream, but as an African American, I also have some issues that come against me. But the Republican creed says this, in that last part, I will not trade my freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will not cower before any master save my God. It's my right to stand erect, proud, and unafraid, to think and act for myself, to use and the benefits of my creation, and to stand and face the world boldly to say, Gary Burgess is a free American. Vote for me. Go to my website, make a donation. I don't have deep pockets. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Let's give you guys a round of applause. That concludes our forum today. Candidates would like to come down and ask everybody some votes.